Hello. I hope that we are live. I'm just going to check in with you guys in the chat to make sure it's all happening. Welcome. I can see everyone starting to come on in. So I'm hoping we're all A-okay. I can see that we've got Maria and Maddie. Thank you so much for changing your nicknames. Beautiful. And Michael. So other people, if you can change your nickname, I put it above the chat. That would be so great. So much easier for me to, well, it's nicer for me to call you by your real name. So I'll just quickly, for those of you that don't know me, just give you a tiny snippet of who I am. Thank you so much for trusting me with not only your name and email, but your time for this class. I'm Kim. And I've been teaching singing for about 12 years now, 6 of those online. And my teaching style is really about making it easy for you to understand what you need to do and how. I'm not big on jargon. I'm not big on long scientific explanations. I'm big on you getting it, you understanding it. So I find that most of the instruction that I had when I was younger was either way too vague or way too complicated. And I felt really stupid most of the time because I didn't quite understand how the mechanics of it worked, and I was too nervous to ask questions or ask for more explanations. So firstly, if that is where you're at with your voice training, it's not you. It's definitely not you. It's never you, and you're not stupid. It just means that you might need things to be explained in a different way. So I just wanted to put that out there first. Even though this class is not about singing technique, it's about something way cooler than that. I'm really, really passionate about this piece of the puzzle, the mind in all of this singing training stuff. And I find that it's not talked about enough. We tend to talk a lot about the singing technique side of things and not about how the mind can impact our voice. And I see it constantly. So I can hear the second that a student doesn't think they can hit the note. They don't believe that they can do it. Often I will hide the keyboard, or I will tell my students that we're in a different part of their voice, because as soon as they know that it's their break note or it's a note that is high or scary for them, they automatically hesitate, shut down, strain. And so we could say that it's that they've, dropped connection to their support. But in reality, it's much more about the fear. We need to label it as self-doubt rather than that their body doesn't know how to support their voice on that note. So I hope that all makes sense to you guys. You probably all felt that when you've been afraid of a note, when you've had that moment of, there's no way that I can sing that we do tend to freeze. We tend to tighten up. We tend to push. Hi, Lois. Nice to see you too. I better get back to saying hello to everyone. Lo, nice to see you, hun. We've got Stevie and Christine, and there's lots of you that haven't changed your nickname yet, but thank you so much for being here. And if you would like to, feel free to pop in your actual name so that I can say hey to you. So I just want you to imagine what you and your voice would be capable of if you didn't have that little thought, I don't think I can do this. No, definitely can't do this. Abort, stop, everything, panic stations. Can you imagine what you would be capable of? Because if we could remove that part of the brain, I think all of us would be much happier, right? We're going to go through this training. We're going to really start to pull apart all of the thoughts that are holding you back and strategy on how you can flip those, how you can work through those. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Moderately Tortured Artist Bootcamp, which is my course that is solely about getting your head straight and working through all of the challenges, really having open discussions about what's holding you back, how you can work through these things. And it's a month-long course where we're constantly checking in with each other and getting you to the point where you actually create something at the end of that month. So it's very exciting. So I'll talk about that at the end of the training. We're going to talk about how you can dive deeper and get nudges of encouragement and personal support from me in that, if you would like to. But we're going to start. Oh, hi, Lynn. No way to change the nickname. Oh, if you're on mobile, it might be tricky. But if you are on computer, you should be able to click the top name that you see on the right and select change nickname. We've also got Katrina in here. Hello. Awesome. So I did ask you guys to do a little bit of pre-work, a little bit of homework. So what are the juicy creative goals that you have? What would you be thrilled to make or accomplish next year in terms of your voice, in terms of music, in terms of being creative? I want to hear these from you guys. I would love for you to share them with me. So a couple of years, my big goal for that year was to write a book, which I did. I've popped that underneath the chat if you want to check it out, because that's another way of kind of delving more into this work. And that is a book all about this. It's about how perfectionism and criticism and fear of failure and self-doubt and all of those lovely things tend to hold us back in music. So I wrote a book that was really tough. And then this year I wrote, recorded and released 2 songs. So I've been through the creative process on some small projects and some quite big projects, and I've learnt a lot. I've learnt how beautiful it is and how difficult it is. It is so tough to consistently show up for yourself when all you want to do is Netflix and chill. And to really pay attention to the fear that comes up around that and work through it rather than trying to bury it, which only works for a short time. You want to really look at it and process it and then move through it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hi, Yvonne. Nice to see you too. So tell me, what are the things that you want to create, that you want to achieve? Share them below in the chat. I would love to have some like specific examples. I've got some that we can work through. Excuse me while I still load up on coffee. It's relatively early still in the morning, yeah. My goal is to become a nationally known singer here in Italy, maybe not by next year, but in the near future. My hang-ups are that I am old and I have 4 kids. Okay, beautiful. So one thing that I will say about goals that rely on other people, so nationally known relies on other people a lot, right? What I'll say about that is that that is very tricky because you don't have control over that. I would suggest that a better goal is one that you have the control over. So to become to go and record an album would be really, really great, right? To record an album, then to like learn that all I need to do about marketing, then to go on a tour and like start to build up that following around Italy. But having a nationally known singer is very tricky also because what if one person in the nation doesn't know who you are? So I'm so glad that you said that, Maria, because I feel like we definitely need to be very specific about our goals and why. Like, why do you need to be nationally known? Why can't you just be known in your local area? Or why can't it be that, 1,000 people know who you are and listen to your music? It's really interesting when we start to look at the reasons why we want things. And often for a lot of us, and definitely myself included, when we're talking about it being bigger, it's because we want to feel like we're good enough. We want to feel like we're loved and we're seen and we're recognized. And I think that that is very dangerous to put that in our goal for other people to validate us and our art. It's a bit of a worry. So I would love for us to start reframing these goals as things that you have control over, that you can show up and you can go, yeah, I've reached that and I've made that, if that makes sense. Helpful user. My goal is to be able to sing freely the way I hear it in my head. Okay, so let's be really specific about that. Okay, so freely is great because at the moment it sounds like you might have some tension that we need to get rid of. But what is it that you hear in your head? Is it that it is brighter? Is it that it is smoother? Is it that you want to extend your range? Let's get really specific about that. Stevie, join a choir to get experience singing in front of other people. Fantastic. You know what's really great about that, Stevie, is that you can do that tomorrow. Like, that is so easy for you to tick off. So I'm going to ask you in a second, what are the obstacles to these goals? So what is stopping you, Stevie, from joining a choir tomorrow or today, depending on what time it is in your time zone? Lynn, my goals are to create 3 30-minute sets and be able to sing them without strain and in a way that is pleasing to me, and to complete the lyrics for one of my husband's instrumentals. Really cool goals. So again, get really specific about in a way that is pleasing to me. What does that mean? Why are you not there yet? What is the gap? So that's one thing I'm really passionate about, is not saying I want my voice to be good, and instead being, I want my voice to be stronger. I want my voice to be more resonant, free, brighter, whatever it is, not having a break, that sort of thing. Christine, my goal is to sing freely and then write and release an EP, ideally an album. My hangups are perfectionism and music worthiness beliefs. Oh, I feel you. Oh my gosh, so many of us have them. I've got an example here that's going to be almost exactly to the point of that, Christine. So I hope that you'll find that helpful when we work through that. Michael, I hope that it's Michael and not Mikkel, but please tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I want to be able to match pitch is good. I want to be able to sing songs in tune next year. Awesome, cool, great goal. Be able to sing in tune to match pitch. Brighter mostly, and mastering the mix. Brighter is fine. Mastering the mix is not specific enough. Is it that you have a break at the moment? Is it that your mix is too weak or too breathy? What does that mean? Let's get so specific, guys. Free myself of tension and self-critique when singing. Oh, freeing yourself of tension is actually easier because that's much more of a technique thing. Self-critique, trickier. Both doable, but yeah, definitely trickier. Great goal, Katrina. Awesome. Thank you so much for those of you that are sharing these. It's so great to hear them. So now, what are the reasons that you can't? I want you just to start dumping out reasons. You don't have to share all of them if you don't want to, but I want you to try to get all of the reasons why this couldn't happen out of your head. So either on paper or in the chat. We would love to hear them, obviously. All of the doubts, negative things from your brain saying, yeah, this is the reason why this is never going to happen for you. These are your obstacles. And if you don't have any of these, you're usually not thinking about how this pans out in reality. So we can be like, oh, there's nothing stopping me. It's going to be totally fine. Often that means that we're not really grounded in reality. We're not thinking about how we take action on these things. So we don't want to be in la-la dreamland. We want to make sure that you cover the very real obstacles, because then we can have strategies in place. Then we can start to work through this. Great. Pleasing to me is to sing with authentic emotion, finding different colors in my voice and singing from my body rather than my throat. Amazing. So we've got emotion. That's going to take care of the finding different colors. Emotion and support, singing from the body rather than my throat. Fantastic. Love that, Lynn. My goal is to find a guitar singing partner to have fun making music with and maybe do some open mic nights. My barriers are fear and perfectionism. Isn't it interesting how a lot of the barriers are here rather than what you can actually do with your voice? So a lot of these are not singing technique, although that can be a part of why there is fear. But most of you are coming up with these barriers that are just your brain. It's just that niggly little voice going, yep, no, too scary. We're not doing this. Low, this year my goal is to start singing again with my new jaw and airway to strengthen my breathing, untrain old jaw and tongue tension, and increase resonance. Beautiful. Honestly, it's more terrifying as I start to think about it than I thought it would be. No need to get into the specifics of my story. Yeah. Well, I know your story, Lo. Lo is one of my students, so I'm aware of that. But that is great. So it's strengthen the breathing, untrain old jaw and tongue tension, and increase resonance. I would love to be able to sing in front of people in a karaoke or blues jam setting, but I haven't figured out what to do with myself on stage yet, what to do with my hands, etc. Maddie, don't worry about what to do with your hands. We all have this. I still go on stage and think, what am I doing with my hands? It's okay. If you go up there and look awkward, it's totally fine. So we will tackle this, but just know that for the first, I don't know, 3 years of me performing, I literally thought that I'd grown my hands out of nowhere. I was like, what do I even do with these guys? So that's really, really normal, but we don't want it to be a barrier for you getting up on stage and sharing that gorgeous voice of yours. Time. I work a full and part-time job, so I only have the weekends to practice, and I haven't found a choir that fits my schedule. Okay, that is legit. The tone is full and powerful until the first bridge, and then most of the time disconnects and goes straight to thin head voice, not breathy. I get up there mostly pushing after C4. Cool. So that is definitely a trying to find technique around not flicking into your head voice and finding a lighter, probably like a lighter chest dominant mix or a neutral mix in there versus taking too much chest up and pushing or flicking into your head voice. So that, don't worry, that's super easily done. Barriers to goal, my need to control my environment, imposter complex, worries that I'm not naturally good enough, lack of trust in self. All of those ring bells for me too, Katrina. My goal is to be able to accompany myself on guitar, singing, and do solo gigs by the end of next year. Fantastic goal, Yvonne. I'm so excited that you're doing that. Barriers, I don't have the emotional fortitude to go through with it. Wow, that's a big one. That's a big call there, Maria. Also, a lot of guilt from religious background about work taking away time from my kids, worried that I will neglect them, that I am being selfish. Oh my gosh. And what's really interesting is that often when parents, I can't speak from experience, but with my students, when the parents take time out for themselves and go and follow through with something like this that is a dream of theirs, it's really inspiring to the kids. You know, you're being a role model, showing up for yourself and doing something that you're afraid of, and it can be really empowering, can be really inspirational for the kids. A big obstacle is I'm not good enough, I'm too boring to engage an audience, not an interesting enough sound. You notice how like all of these things, we firmly believe these as true. We think that these are facts about ourselves, and they aren't. They're not facts at all. My obstacle, putting the consistent effort into learning and practicing. Yeah. And that's putting the consistent effort into learning and practicing. There is a thought behind why you're not doing that. So that is us kind of looking at it as like that is an action, that's an inaction rather. So what is the thought behind that? Why? What do you start thinking about or feeling that stops you from putting in the consistent effort into learning and practicing is what I would ask you there, Yvonne. Beautiful. So do you notice how it makes you feel when you write those down, when you think about all of those obstacles? So I want you to let me know how that makes you feel. So I would suggest that some of the feelings that are coming up here are anxious, scared, uneasy, silly, maybe. Like, what are you feeling as soon as you start to kind of think those thoughts and sit in that space? Think about all of those reasons why you're not doing what you want to do. What are the emotions that come up? We've got some awesome goals in here. Deer in headlights. Okay, so the emotion that I think of with deer in headlights is like paralyzing fear, maybe. Like, let me know if that rings a bell there, Maria. Deer in headlights, I like that. Yeah, what are these emotions that are coming up for you? Because this is the reason that you aren't taking action. It's these emotions that come up. Because the thoughts, we could read thoughts, and you're probably reading other people's thoughts without a huge emotional reaction, whereas your own feels really different. Low, hesitant, doubting, timid. Lynn feels sad that I think these things about myself, especially because I, of course, know the doubts are not really facts, but you're right, they do feel like facts. They absolutely feel like facts. Yes, blind, silent, absolute panic. Paralyzing fear for me, for sure, says Maddie. I've gotten up on stage before and gotten very bad stage fright. Yeah. And that's really challenging, because what happens when we have these obstacle thoughts that we've just had then is we then also look for evidence that these are facts. And so Maddie's just done a brilliant job of showing us that. We have an experience, and then our brain goes, see, you can't do this. You can't do this because you got very bad stage fright that last time. So we start building a case, which then makes the thought have much more power and seem much more like a fact, when it's actually not. It's just a thought that then creates these feelings, and all of these feelings make us not want to take action. So we just stay in our safe zone, not doing any of the practice that we need to be doing, not taking any of the action in terms of reaching out and making requests and booking gigs or writing songs, any of that, because it's so much easier if we just push them to the side and stay safe, right? Popping in to give a goal, get 1 or 2 gigs a month, and stop being concerned with the lousy pay. Yeah, you have to. That's not going to change. Like, all of the gigs that I did were lousy pay. And I just had to change my thought about that and remind myself, and we've had this conversation, Lois, about how grateful I am to be able to play music, because it is a privilege to be able to do that. So, Lois, I know that the thing that's stopping you getting 1 or 2 gigs a month is like getting past that nervousness to reach out and follow up and, put pressure on the cafes and the pubs around the area, for sure. My obstacle is writing songs. It just seems too much work and too many choices to make, maybe. I feel unease. I would be more comfortable when I had a good way to write songs with piano and then write them down or record them in a good program. Yeah, so all of the unease is what's stopping you, right? But there's all of these obstacles that are coming up, and most of the time we just go, it's too hard. Like, there's so many thoughts, it's now too hard. So writing songs is one that I have got as an example. So I hope that is really helpful for you. Confident local. Those of you that haven't changed your nickname, if you would like to do that, that would be so great, because then I can address you as your name rather than the bizarre names that we get in this chat. So just click on the name at the top right and click change nickname so that we can know who you are. Just a little bit, just a first name. Great. Okay. So let's start talking about how to move past this, because this feels really ick, and apologies for the typo that was in my email. It's not ink feelings, it's ick feelings. We're not squids. So no wonder you can't take action, right? These feelings are horrible, and all we want to do is push the feelings away. We don't want to feel those. We don't want to embrace the discomfort at all. So I want you to understand that these negative excuses and the inaction that comes from them are 100% normal. Do you notice how everybody on this call had them? They might not be exactly the same as yours, but we all have them. We get into these patterns, and they're just these kind of thought errors that we start to believe as true. And then we find evidence in our lives to prove them true. So it's really important that we start to pull apart the fact from the fiction and start to practice this. So a lot of you will be practicing singing technique. You will be practicing. You have a name. That's amazing. Thanks, Calder. We will be practicing breathing. We will be practicing what we're doing with our tongue. We'll be practicing vowel shapes. We'll be practicing support. We'll be practicing, figuring out what's going on in our mix. But we're not practicing what we're doing with our brains and how we're focusing our brains and what we're thinking about when we go to practice, because it's going to completely change the way that you show up in the practice room. So we know that we have to do that to build habits with our singing technique, but we don't give the same time and energy and importance to our brains. And I would say that it's actually more important, because I have so many singers that have brilliant technique. I get my students to the point where they can sing just about anything, and yet they still can't nail a performance or an audition, and they have no idea what is going on. And I'm like, that is the biggest piece of the puzzle. You can have the best technique in the world and still not be able to show up on stage in the way that you would like to. It's such a shame. So new habits are just new neural pathways. We just need to get these new thoughts to be the habit. And it takes time and it takes commitment. And I'm not talking about you just being like, I'm the best singer in the world and I can do anything. Because that's in dreamland. That's not going to happen, and you're not going to believe it. You're going to feel like you're faking it, and that's not going to be helpful. So we're going to take a before and after snapshot about how your thinking can impact the result that you're wanting. So I'm just going to go back into the chat so that I can make sure that I'm up to date with what you guys are saying. I'm frustrated because I've been taking lessons for 2.5 years, and I feel like I need to start using what I've learned. Is something somewhat intimidating. That's why I think starting with a choir would be good. I'm going on a cruise ship in 3 weeks and hoping they have karaoke on the ship. The only issue there is that my father is traveling with me, and his comments are the reason I didn't start singing 40 years ago. Wow. Like, how much power have they had over you if you didn't start singing for 40 years? That's huge. And we all have those stories, Stevie. So I think that's the goal. I mean, it's only in 3 weeks, which is fantastic. You showing up for yourself and singing karaoke on the ship in front of your father, or just knowing that your father is on the ship. That would be an amazing goal. And then you also don't have the reason that time is an issue with the choir. So that's kind of one of those logistical obstacles that might take a little bit of figuring out. But that one you can definitely do just with you and your mind and showing up, right? So much frustration and impatience, yet so much sadness about my doubts despite having had positive feedback and encouragement. Yeah, so some of us have had negative feedback, and so then that proves that we're not good enough singers and we should never do this, et cetera, et cetera. But we also have singers that have had positive feedback and encouragement, and it actually makes no difference. So sometimes we think that if our father said that we were a good singer, that then we would actually be able to go out and make all of our dreams come true and do whatever we wanted and perform in front of, a whole pub or whatever it is. And it's not always the case. We think that when other people validate us, that we're going to have all of this confidence. And yet we have people like Christine, and I'm definitely in that same boat, Christine. Even if you have had positive feedback, you can still think that you're not good enough. Coldo says, I've been struggling since early summer to find time and energy when I have the time. Any thoughts on this? Yeah, that's just an excuse because we always have time. We have time that we spend watching TV. We have time that we spend scrolling Facebook, Instagram. We have so much time, which we could be spending 15, 20 minutes working on our voices, but we don't. So I want to ask you, Calder, what is the reason that you're not doing it? What is the thought that you're procrastinating, that you're delaying showing up, like right now? Why could you not leave this call and go practice right now? Because there's always something behind that. We just use time as an excuse. But it is something that we work on in the boot camp, is actually looking at your life and where you might be wasting time. We do have a look at your day and track what's going on with your time. I'm at work. I love that you're watching this call at work. It's definitely work related. So we do start to track your time and figure out where these pieces of time are escaping you that you could be putting into your art if you really wanted to. So we're going to do a before and after snapshot of how your thinking can impact the result that you're wanting. So this is a thought model that I learned from a woman called Brooke Castillo. And I think it's really, really valuable because you get to see how your thoughts can completely change how a situation falls out, what you get, what result you get, and also how we tend to look at situations or circumstances and give them a truth that isn't true either. So some of you said that your goal is to write a song, right? So often people will say, I want to write a great song. And already that is dangerous because then the perfectionist in you, the alarm bells go off and you go, yeah, well, you can't write a great song because you don't really know what you're doing. And okay, these chords suck. And then your lyrics sound really cheesy and et cetera, et cetera. So then you go and find all of the evidence to tell yourself that you can never do this. So it stops you right in your tracks. If we label the situation as, my goal is to write a song, that's way less loaded. You can write a song. I would suggest that it's better if you say, I'm going to write a bad song, because then it takes all of the pressure off it. And you've at least then, if you write a bad song, you've at least written a song. And so you actually start to get this momentum because you've shown up for yourself. You've actually sat in the discomfort of, I don't know if I can actually write a song, even a bad one, and moved through that and delivered something. You've created a result that you didn't think that you could do because for 6, 8, 12 months, you've been saying that you want to write a song and you haven't actually written a song. So the situation is, my goal is to write a song. Before is usually, I can't do that. I'm not musical enough or talented enough. I don't know how to do that. We just sit in confusion and we indulge in this, I don't know, this is too hard, can't even figure it out. And the way that that makes us feel is inadequate, self-conscious, and this whole feeling of not enough. And you take no action. So the result is that you get no song. That you want to have a song and you've gotten no song, right? So how can we change this? Where is the disconnect here? Because the situation is neutral. My goal is to write a song. The thought about it is what sets this kind of chain reaction that then ends up either that you do create the result or you don't. So we need to get better at looking at the situation as neutral, making sure that we're seeing it as neutral, and then choosing a thought that is a better one that's going to then get us a better result. Now, I don't want you, as I said earlier, to be like, I am so great. I'm a musical genius. I can write the best song ever, because it's highly unlikely you are actually going to believe that. And so if you don't believe it, the feeling is going to be, oh, I don't know that I really can. I actually still feel self-conscious because I'm just telling myself this positive thought that isn't really what I believe. So that's why I think I can do this and I'm a musical genius is not a great way to go. Like this hugely positive thought is not the way to go because you don't believe that yet. It's not true for you. So better is you can believe that I can write a bad song. So that is a better thought because you probably do believe you can write a bad song. Like, let me know, those of you that are wanting to write music, if you want to write a song, do you believe you could write something that's actually pretty terrible? Could you write a terrible song? And even those of you that don't want to write songs, like you could probably write something pretty awful if you set your mind to it, right? So let me know. When you think, I can write a bad song, how does that make you feel different than if you had the thought, I can't do that, I'm not musical enough, it's going to be terrible? What do you feel differently? Laura says, I sincerely believe that I could write a terrible song. Beautiful. So versus I need to write a perfect song and I don't feel capable of doing that. There's no way that you could do that. Your songs are awful. That would make us feel panicked. That would make us feel insecure, right? When you think I can write a bad song, how does that then make you feel? How is that different? What is the feeling that comes from that? I can write a bad song. Yes, I believe I can write a bad song because I have. Awesome. How cool is that? I remember seeing an interview with Ed Sheeran, and he talked about how many bad songs you need to write before they get good. And it was like running a tap that starts off with dirty water and eventually the water runs clear. So you just need to write tons of bad songs. And I think showing up for yourself and writing a song, whether it be good or bad, is more the point, right? Each song comes better, and I learn a lot when I really mess up and figure out why the song was terrible. That is such a good attitude to have, Caldo. I feel the difference because I've been paralyzed from writing a song for about 2 years. Yeah. So what is the feeling that you have when you think, I can write a bad song? What is the emotion that's in your body? Stevie says, yes, I believe I can. Awesome. What is the feeling? I'm hoping that it's something like that you're at ease. It feels pretty neutral. Maybe you're curious. Maybe you're even a tad excited. Maybe it's not going completely too excited, but maybe it's at least curious. Maybe it's at least that it feels at ease and there's no panic around it like there was when you were thinking that you had to write a great song, right? I feel confident about writing a bad song. I feel frustrated. Right. So you feel frustrated, Maria, because you actually want to write a great song. So your thought is, I want to write a great song. You haven't changed the thought. It's just that you went, yeah, I can do that. I don't want to write that anymore. So frustrated is not coming from, I can write a bad song. It's coming from, I want to write better songs. I want to write a great song. So you're not allowing yourself to sit with the original thought. It's calming. I feel like I can start. Beautiful. So then when you have calming, or you feel confident, or you feel curious and at ease, what could you do in terms of take action? You would actually start the bad song. You would actually go and work on the bad song, which is already so much better than if you have the thought, I want to write a great song, and you never get started, or you start and you throw it away, right? It's already better. You're already taking action. And then the result is that you actually make something, that you write a song, whether it be good or bad. And like Caldo said, then you learn from it. So why is it bad? What's making it bad? Is it that you think the lyrics are too cheesy, which I've definitely been there. I've written so many cheesy songs that it's ridiculous. Is it that you think that the chords are too basic and you want to actually look at different chords, and maybe you go and look at jazz chords to make them more interesting, or maybe you start listening to other songs and what what the chord progressions are, and why does it make that song really great and your song not as great? Can you tell me which technique you use for concentration? That's a great question. Concentration. So it depends on what I'm doing. For concentration and singing, I focus on presence a lot of the time, and singing each note as it happens and trying to sort of sit in the emotion versus getting caught up in all of the thoughts about where are the lyrics and what techniques am I using and how's that note going to come out. In terms of writing a song, I don't know that I need any techniques for concentration. As soon as I show up and I set myself some time to do that, I'm usually in it until I have a thought that this isn't very good and I want to walk away. So I would say that if you're needing concentration techniques, I would look at what are the thoughts that are coming up that are making you get distracted or making you procrastinate or take you out of the space of concentration. Maria, yes, I do have quite a stubborn and good at avoiding any sort of positive thought kind of brain, and we're all wired that way. We have negativity bias. It's a real thing. We're always looking for the drama. We're always looking for the trouble. It's like kept us safe for thousands of years, but it's really problematic when we're doing anything creative, when we're doing anything artistic. So we do need to practice choosing more positive thoughts. And I would even start with neutral thoughts, Maria. If positive is too far and you're like, I don't believe any of that, we need to find more neutral thoughts that you can get on board. Strangely, the thought of writing a bad song, particularly considering the other instruments involved, makes me want to weep. Tell me more about that, Christine. That's really interesting. What is it? What is the feeling, the emotion underneath wanting to cry about it? Is it fear? Is it inadequacy? Is it like, what is it? Is it joy? Maybe it's actually good tears. So hopefully you can see how that thought model kind of pans out. We have the same situation, but as soon as you change the thought about it, your feeling is different, therefore your actions are different, therefore the results are different. Can you see that playing out in that situation that we just had then? As I said, once you've written bad songs and you can commit to yourself showing up, like I've had students that have been doing like one song a week and they just show up. Like that's the difference between treating it as you're an amateur or you're a professional, right? And it doesn't mean that you need to go out and make a living being a musician. It just means that you have to show up for yourself. And that is uncomfortable, but what you get out of that is momentum. And that's where a lot of us get really stuck, is that we have no momentum. We've just stayed paralyzed for so long. So I'm going to do another thought model so that we can kind of start investigating how you guys can use these for yourself. You've answered my distress in Maria's answer. I should investigate deeper. What about starting very small and writing a verse? Fantastic. Yeah. If you just need to change the thought to, I can write a bad verse, awesome. That is a great thought choice, Christine. And if you just go, I can commit to that, and that gives me a feeling that is either neutral or positive and excited or curious, then you've found something that's good. We need the feeling to want to propel us into action. So we need to ask the question of what thought would give me a feeling that's then going to help me actually take action on this. Does this make sense? Can you guys see the value and how interesting it is that we have the power to change that thought, even if it's not wildly positive? As I said, I'm not asking you to have a thought that you don't believe in. And we've got some more people. We've got Anaya. Hello so much. Hello, welcome. It's so nice to have you here. Sorry, super early here. My brain is still not working all that well. Yeah, let me know what you think of this whole idea of the thought model. And what we do in bootcamp is I get you to do these about your artistic goal each day. because the more that we take action, we notice that the doubt and the fear actually changes. We start getting new thoughts. We start getting things like self-sabotage coming in, fear of success. Like, what happens if I do write a great song? Oh my gosh, then I need to actually do something with it. Do I need to record it? Oh my gosh, my voice is not good enough to do that. We tend to end up in this spiral. Baby steps, says Lynn. Yeah. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this whole idea of kind of tracking your thoughts and making very conscious choices. And I think it's a really great idea to even do this. And I've talked about this in my Singing Survivor courses sometimes as well, is that before you go into a practice session, there is a thought. So the thought might be, I don't feel like doing this. The thought might be, I bet that my voice is going to crack on that song again. I don't know why I'm bothering with this because I'm not getting any better, etc., etc. There can be lots of negative thoughts that happen even before you sing a single note that mean that you are not going to have a productive practice session. So if you go, okay, well, I'm just learning. I'm here to show up and learn. I'm gonna see what I can do. I've learned a new technique that I can try with my mixed voice, for example. So I'm going to show up and do 5 minutes of that and see what happens. Is a totally different feeling than I bet that bad thing is going to happen again. I don't know why I'm bothering. I don't know why I'm still having lessons, etc., etc. The weepiness is fear and inadequacy. Yeah. So it's always something underneath it, right? And so we can choose a different thought that means that fear and inadequacy isn't the feeling that you get. So if it has to be, I can show up and write one bad verse, and that gives you a different feeling than fear and inadequacy, that's great. But I would suggest that it's, yes, as you were saying, it's similar to Maria, that you actually want to write something good. You're not allowing yourself to write something bad first. Has to be, as Lynn said, baby steps. We always want to be further ahead than we are, right? And it might turn out that it's great. You might actually, once you get out of your own way, write something that you really love, but that's not the point. The point is that you are showing up whether it's good or whether it's bad. You want to aim for bad so that you can get out of your own way. So let's take another situation, right? So let's say that you get offered a gig or a role in a musical theatre show or an opportunity. So that is a very neutral situation. It's not loaded with any thoughts or feelings about it yet. Often a thought will be, I'm scared. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? So hands up, anyone, if you've had an opportunity come your way and that is the immediate thought. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to do this? I don't think that I can do this. Why have they asked me? Oh my gosh, just sheer panic about that. And then how does that feel in your body? How do you feel when you think, oh, I don't know that I can do this. What if I fail? I'm probably going to embarrass myself. What if people laugh at me? What if people judge me? Etc., etc. Have you had this other situation, and what does that thought trigger in terms of emotions? Let me know. Because I've definitely been there. I've definitely had that, and I feel absolutely paralyzed. And then I start to go down the rabbit hole of, oh my gosh. And I never get to practice them. So the thing is that we want to show up and practice, right? We want to get it to be the best performance that we can get it to be. And that takes practice, and that takes dedication and consistency. But when we think, oh my gosh, this is too hard, I'm going to embarrass myself, we can't do that. We can't get through that to actually take the action. Yes, I have felt that. Causes me to lose my air support due to panic, so I can't sing anyway. Yes. So that's more in the moment of it. Is what if I fail? Beautiful. What about the rest of you? If you're offered this great opportunity, what comes up for you? I actually have been in that situation last year. I was asked to write 3 songs for a summer play and also get a little part, but when the time came, I wasn't able to sing. I just played the guitar and acted my role. Yeah, so that's the whole point, is that we don't show up if we have that as the fear. It's terrible. Sorry, I'm just trying to create some more space in my computer so that the recording that I am doing for you guys, in case the YouTube one isn't fantastic, keeps recording. I've absolutely thought those things. I am afraid I will be seen for the imposter that I am. Disappointment. Right. Yeah. So fear, disappointment. Haven't done a recital because of the fear of singing in front of people I know to start off with. Great. So all of this says fear, right? We feel afraid as soon as we have that thought. So I would say inadequate, self-conscious, not enough, all of that coming up. Then the action is either that you say no to the opportunity. You don't even give yourself the opportunity. You go, yeah, no, sorry, I can't do that. I'm busy, or I don't feel confident that I could deliver that, or whatever it is. Or you say yes, and yet you sabotage yourself by not practicing, or you get on stage and you completely freeze up. So we've all been there. It sounds like most of us have been there. So the thought, what if I fail? What if I'm going to embarrass myself? Results in either sitting on the couch binge watching something and feeling terrible because you know that you didn't take that opportunity and you really wish that you had, or a performance that you're not happy with. So it's so important to get this thought work on lock when you're practicing and in kind of day-to-day life, so that you can then do it when it matters, when you get on stage. So what happens if we have the same situation and we change the thought? So it might be that you think something as, what a great opportunity for growth. I'm going to learn so much from that. If that still feels too positive and you're like, I don't really believe that, what about, I'll figure it out. I can do challenging things. I can figure this out. Does that feel like something that you could believe? Let me know. Because I don't want it to feel like, oh, this is so great, I'm so excited, when you're not excited, you're terrified. You can't just convince yourself of a positive thought. You can't convince yourself to believe it. And that's what I think that so many of us think we should do, is just cover over it with these positive thoughts, right? That we don't believe and we can't take action on, because deep down we still feel scared, and you're always going to feel scared. Elizabeth Gilbert has a great quote that talks about fear always being along for the ride. It's like fear is in the backseat of the car, but you don't let it, change the station. You don't let it map for you. You don't let it grab the wheel. It's always going to be there, but it's how can we manage your brain so that you still take action and you're still able to show up despite the fear being there. And in the Moderately Tortured Artist Bootcamp, we actually start pulling apart why the fear is there in the first place, how we can move you through all of the things that have, happened in the past that are those obstacle thoughts that are coming up going, we'll see that happened there, so there's no way that you can do it now. Okay, if it were a chance to perform, I would jump for joy. Would you? There would be no fear. You would just be like, yeah, I'm going to nail this. I would question that. I don't know much about you, Maria, but I do know that there was this block with having to be great at songwriting. So do you feel like, yes, I'm going to show up and be great in performing? There's no doubt there whatsoever. Katrina, I haven't had that scenario so much, if I'm being fully honest. I think it's because of my focus on other people's validation. So I feel set up for success if someone offered me the great opportunity. My problem is still having that drive when I don't have that validation. Right. So that's interesting. So the opportunity would be fine, but what happens then in your situation if the situation changes? So you don't get offered a great opportunity. And we can do that as the situation. Then the thought is, I must not be good enough because people are not offering me gigs, right? So then what would the thought have to be for you to not feel inadequate, for you to not feel like you're not good enough because somebody hasn't asked you? That this is where it starts getting interesting, is where you create your own thought models based on what you are struggling with. So that's great, Katrina, that if there was an opportunity, you would jump at it. But there's obviously other situations where you've hit the nail on the head there, that's going to be the problem. So your thought model would have to be about, what if you don't get offered any gigs or opportunities? I have to run to my class, but thank you so much, Kim. I needed this today. I'll definitely watch the rest of the replay and keep moving through. So much love and thanks from me. Bye, Laura. Lovely to see you. I actually believe that in almost every other way but singing, playing the guitar, acting, on a gig as a magician. Oh, cool. Or even at work when I'm working on something new. Right. So what is the block with singing would be the question there. So as I said, can you think the thought something like, I'll figure it out. I can do challenging things. The note that I'm worried about, I can do deep practice and figure that out. I can work on my thoughts before I go on stage. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're just starting to have better thoughts that are trying to make it either neutral or slightly positive so that you don't spiral, so that you don't head in a different direction. So if you think, I'll figure it out, I can do challenging things, you might feel motivated. You might feel interested. You might feel like, I want to get started right now. And then you would get to work on what you need to work on. So this is so important, because we don't show up because of how we're feeling. And we think that I can't change that. But this is a really strategic way of capturing it and recognizing what your current thought is, and then going, okay, what am I going to choose to think instead? And it's a daily practice. You might have to do this multiple times a day initially on something that you have a lot of fear around. So, okay, but what about the very real fear of failure, right? So there is a possibility that if you show up to this opportunity, that you're going to fail. That's just life. Failing is just like what we fear about failure is actually not the situation of failing. We think that it is, but it's the feeling that we have when we fail. So when you hit a wrong note, or when you have stage fright and nothing comes out the way that you want it to, the feeling is what we hate, and that's what we want to avoid. That's why we go, I don't really want to do that. Actually, I don't want to take that risk, because the feeling of failure is so horrible. The feeling of failure, if you think about that, what is the feeling in your body, right? So I feel it as sick. Like, I feel sick to my stomach. So my stomach feels really churny and tight. I might feel tight through my chest. That is the physical manifestation of failure, because we feel not good enough. We feel ashamed sometimes. So I want you to think about the physical feeling of when you feel embarrassed or humiliated or ashamed, because it is a physical feeling. That's what we're trying to avoid. Yvonne, I'm getting better at believing in myself, but I still get the occasional crisis in confidence. But that is just my little self-sabotaging voice that it's all about fear. Now I just live with it and try to be better prepared when I do gigs. My biggest issue at the moment is I struggle to remember lyrics. I am getting better, but ultimately takes more time and effort to practice remembering. I use the excuse of being too busy with work, PhD, and life, but I just keep doing the best that I can and keep going, keep doing as long as it keeps being fun. Yeah, and I think that the thought there is that it needs to be perfect and that I need to remember all of the lyrics. What if you just went, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to enjoy myself? It doesn't matter if I forget the lyrics, because honestly, it doesn't. Like, there are shows where some of the biggest stars, like I remember somebody saying that they'd seen Adele in concert and she forgot the lyrics to her own song and just laughed it off. Like, even the biggest stars forget lyrics. It's not a big deal. And we forgive them. We just don't forgive ourselves. Yes, it is a mix of very conflicting emotions in here. I am more scared about practice and writing than performing. I crave performing. I'm more uncomfortable when alone with myself in day-to-day singing. So there's definitely some thought work that needs to happen around that, Maria. The craving of performing, again, is the craving potentially. I'm not telling you what you're thinking or craving, but potentially because it's the validation. You're like, if I'm performing, then people want to hear me. It might be a level of status that you get from performing. We all desire all of these different things in different areas of our lives, but performing, I think, when it becomes this striving for achievement and validation and love in some ways, can be very detrimental. It loses the meaning for you and I think that you should love practicing and singing for yourself just as much as you love performing, in my honest opinion. I'll watch the replays. This Calder, got to get back to work. Love and thanks to you all. Great questions. Thanks, Calder. So good to see you here. So I just want you to think about that feeling in your body of failure, because this is why we're not taking action a lot of the time, is this fear, this sick feeling, however you feel it in your body. You can let me know. If we think about it as just being a churny stomach, or just being a tight chest, or just being shakiness, or whatever it is for you, it's actually not that big of a deal. Right? It's just a vibration in your body. It's just a feeling in your body that you're going to feel as every time that you have that thought, right? But it could last for 5 minutes. It could last for 3 hours, but it's just a feeling. It's just a series of feelings in your body, of sensations in your body. Why are we doing so much to avoid that discomfort? It's crazy when we look at it, right? So again, if we have a look at another situation where you actually have failed, it's the feeling is not the scary part. It's that we make it a big deal, that we make it mean something about us. We make it mean that we are a failure, not that we've had something that we've fallen flat on our face. So if we look at that as a situation, you've hit the wrong note in front of a crowd, right? That is going to be the situation. The thought is that I've just embarrassed myself. I've failed, right? But what if you just thought about it as, okay, that wasn't my best work. Let's just keep going. Then the rest of the notes are completely different than if you go, oh my gosh, I've totally screwed it up. I can't come back from this. Oh my gosh, look at that person like whispering behind their hand. That's when you start to spiral. So I really, really want you to start noticing when these thoughts come in, when these thoughts are coming in and not serving you. They're not helpful for you, because you do have a choice, even in the moment, even when it is difficult to do. But we need to practice this. We need to put this into practice. So it's really valuable to see your before, like what you're currently thinking, and then a script that would be after. So writing these out is really, really useful. Having the situation, having your thought about the situation, how it makes you feel, then the action that you're going to take or not take, often it's that paralysis, and the result that happens from that. So I hope that is obvious. I hope that is clear. It's not positive thinking. It's about neural retraining. We need to retrain your brain to choose differently. And it's about committing to a different thought and understanding why that is important. So I hope that is clear, but please ask me any questions that you need to about it. But our brains ultimately still want to play it safe. So you are going to have procrastination come up. You're going to not want to take action on things. You're going to want to be lazy, because that's how we're hardwired. We're hardwired for pleasure and pleasure now. And just understand that growth comes from discomfort. You are never going to get any better without being uncomfortable and trying new things. And I'm so sorry to say that, because it's not something that's really glamorous, right? We want to be comfortable all the time. This is literally out of your comfort zone. So we need to recognize that old thoughts are going to continuously leap out of nowhere and slap you in the face like a wet fish. But it's your job to recognize them and understand them so that you're not pushing up against so much resistance. We're just resisting the growing, resisting that discomfort. And if you understand that it's going to be uncomfortable and prepare yourself for that, it's going to be much, much easier. So that's what I hope that you take away from this, guys, that you do have the option to choose a different thought that you still believe, you can still get on board, that creates a much different feeling in your body that is then going to help you create a much different action, because that's what's not happening, is the action, right? So if you want to learn more about this, definitely can come on board the Moderately Tortured Artist Bootcamp. As I said, I've got a 4-week program where we are going to be diving much deeper into this, having you commit to doing this thought work, look at what's underneath the fears, and also do some work on trying to make it more fun, because often we will get caught up in the seriousness of our art and not remember to play and not remember to make that a priority, and sort of look at how you're spending time in your life at the moment and what is serving you and what isn't. Because as singers and musicians, like, every choice that we make about our health and our body and our mental state is going to impact how we show up in the world, how we show up as musicians. So as I said, I wrote a book about this. I've got the link to that below. I've got the link to the bootcamp below so that you can check out both of those options if you feel like you need some extra help, some extra guidance to make this happen for you. Both of those options are there. If you come on board the bootcamp, there's the option to grab the book, either hard copy or digital, a bit cheaper, which is nice. And that will kick off on January 14th. So we've got some pre-work. If you want to dive in right now, there's some pre-work in there. And then it's going to start after all of the chaos of the festive season on January 14th. And we will have a live Q&A similar to this so that we can really work through your specific thoughts and fears and doubts so that we can work out a strategy for you, because it really needs to be that you have a plan in place. We need to get all of the obstacles out and start giving you some strategies around those as well. So there's going to be some legitimate obstacles that you're going to need to overcome in order to get these goals happening. And I want to help you with that, because I think that we get on board some of these calls and we go, oh my gosh, yep, I can do that. Cool. I'm so motivated. And then next week you realize, oh, I actually am right back to where I started. What was I meant to do again? So if you want some help, if you would like me to be there with you for 4 weeks, making sure that you start these new habits, making sure that you choose these new thoughts, making sure that you keep showing up and taking little actions, and the ability to ask me questions on what little actions should I be taking, and having some accountability, because I'm going to ask you if you've taken those actions. That's a really big deal, to have somebody there cheering you on, to have somebody that you can ask these questions of. So if you guys have any questions while I'm on here, please pop them in the comments section. Let me know what you thought about this whole concept of being able to choose better thoughts. If you've got any questions about that, I hope that it's kind of shown you a little bit about how you can do that for yourself. But yeah, there's obviously been a lot of questions and resistance coming up from you for you guys as well. So if I can be helpful in in that with you. I would love to do that while I am on here. And if you want to obviously come on board the boot camp as well. So there is a early bird price until January 1st. It's $149 Australian, and it will go up to $199 Australian on the 1st of Jan. So it's well worth getting in early, so that you can jump in there and do the pre-work and get to know people, etc., etc. But yeah, let me know what you think of these concepts. Let me know if you've got any questions. Let me know how you're now starting to think how you can apply these to your own life and start to get some more momentum, work towards the goals that you have for 2019. I would love to hear from you. I know that a lot of you have had to jump off and go to work. Apologies that it's gone a bit over the hour that I thought that it was going to, but I really want to stay here and show up for you guys if you've got more specific questions that I can help out with about really getting control of these fears. Thanks, Kim. You haven't said anything I don't know. I just got to keep forcing the neural pathways to change and develop better applications. I think that it's not about forcing, it's about making some dedicated time for you to acknowledge what is going on in your own brain and to really recognize where that is coming from. So if you've got something like a journaling practice that you're doing every day, that is really, really beneficial to start to pull it apart and acknowledge why the inaction is happening, because forcing your way through it is not making you practice, right? So this whole idea of like, yes, I've just got to force myself to practice is not a great thought, because it's not giving you the action of actually practicing. So I would definitely start to question the like forcing the neural pathways, because it sounds like the thought that is being chosen time and time again is not getting you the result that you want it to. So I think a better thought around maybe why you are practicing could be useful there, Yvonne, maybe. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I hope that that was really helpful and has inspired you to really look at what you're thinking about, because it has a dramatic impact on what is coming out of your mouth. So all of those thoughts impact your singing in a very real way, and also what actions you're taking to make the music that you want to get the opportunities that you want to, and to share your voice in the way that you want to. Katrina, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm going to try to use as generous, supportive language towards myself as you have done for all of us today. Beautiful. And I will warn you, Katrina, that don't go over the top. Don't be like, I believe in myself. I'm definitely going to be able to do this. Choose something that actually you can get on board. Choose something that you genuinely believe in. And it might be a little bit more neutral to start off with, rather than being positive. So it might not be the kind of cheerleader situation. It might be something a little bit more neutral. I just want to make sure that you guys actually believe it to be true, versus trying to kind of plaster over it, right? Lynn, there was always a payoff, and I think I'm not sure of what my payoff is for continuing to not believe in myself or the positive feedback I get from others. I'm going to dig in more. Thank you, Kim. That makes me so happy that you're going to dig in more, Lynn. The payoff for continuing to not believe in yourself is that you stay safe. You stay kind of in your comfort zone, and you don't have to risk the discomfort of moving further outside of that. What I will say, Lynn, is that you have taken steps to do that already. So it's not like there is no stepping outside of that. It's just maybe the steps will be bigger in future, right? So there's no payoff for staying small, because you're going to be uncomfortable either way. You're either going to be uncomfortable going out there and growing and taking some risks and working with your mind as you keep taking those risks and having some failures and working through those as well. Or you're going to stay small, and you're not going to be doing the work that you want to be doing. You're not going to be moving forward at the pace that you want to be moving forward. So that is also uncomfortable, because we have these moments when we realize, oh my gosh, like I said, I was going to do that a year ago and I haven't. So that's the discomfort of disappointment versus the discomfort of growth, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. If there are no other questions or feedback, I'm going to wrap this up so that it's not too crazy long for those of you that are watching the replay. But thank you so much for being here. If you've got any questions, you can always reply to my email that I sent about the class. So kim@inspiredtosing.com. Ask me any questions about what we've covered here, about the book, about boot camp, if you're interested in coming on board that. And getting some more momentum, having somebody cheer you on, hold you accountable, help you really figure out these thoughts and what is underneath them so that you can move through a little bit easier and a little bit faster. It's so hard to, make ourselves do it. Whereas if you've got people that are making you committing to make this a practice, it's a lot easier. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful week. Those of you that are new, I'm going to be sending you an email to see how I can help you potentially with singing technique stuff as well, if you're interested in that. So definitely click on one of the options depending on if you're a beginner or intermediate or what you're wanting to learn about so that I can help you further, since this is the first time that you've kind of come across me. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope that you're feeling inspired to start some thought work, to start moving forward on some of these awesome goals that you guys have. See you later.